So, as you know, as we have been going through the process with DLR to look at our facility needs. And they came back and said, you need to get a placeholder in for this year's legislative process. And so that then precipitated the conversation with our architects to provide us with a rough order of magnitude cost. And so what you have in front of you is an estimate should we include all of the county departments that are contemplated in the space, a new site, all of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, soft costs. And then of that would be the court's portion, the $85 million request. And currently the state program would fund 50% of that. The current construction for courthouses, there is specialized facility, security requirements. So the cost per square foot is has been $1,300 per square foot. So in order to create this rough order of magnitude cost, they took that dollars per square foot and then escalated it to $29. As we looked at our county's total assessed value, the cost of the courthouse, our cost per capita, it's really clear that our small county will need significant help. And so we actually make the case for full funding of courthouse costs, but that is a whole legislative process. We have significant need for the courthouse. It's substantiated by the 2009 study that identified it is the second worst in the state, not seismically retrofitted or stable. How the county puts together the remaining cost will be part of this process.
Okay, so first, to make it clear, what we're asking for is not something that exists in current law. Legislation was passed many years ago, which provided for this system of funding half of courthouse costs. This has never felt quite right to me because of the fundamental issue. The courthouse is not the sort of thing that it's easy to convince people that they should vote for, because the size of it is massive compared to the sorts of things that counties usually do. First thing is there's a legislative debt limit for counties, which is 2% of real market value. Our total real market value is $8.8 billion. So 2% of that turns out to be $177 million. So first of all, that would mean that all the debt that we could have at any one point is $177 million. In 2007, Oregon passed property tax limitations, which say that we're not on a real market system. So we can't, in fact, we really have the tax ability of taxable assessed value, which is 3.4 million rather than 3.4 billion, thank you, as opposed to 8.8 billion. So when you look at that, we're really in the range of less than half. It's like 60 some odd million that we could have as our total outstanding debt. To borrow $1 million is $85,000 of debt service a year. So if you look at the $88 million that we have here, that comes out to $7-point-something million a year in debt service. To build a new courthouse would be $2 per thousand in assessed valuation to every property owner in Hood River. So you're talking about a major increase in taxes. What counties have been successful in passing tax measures to pay for courthouses? This one was Lane County, 2019. They asked for 27 cents per thousand. For them to do 27 cents per thousand, that raises 154 million, which is great to be a big county, right? And then 94 million from the state, and they could build a courthouse with that, resoundingly defeated. Cook County, a more rural county, in 2022 went out with a request for a bonding authorization, and it passed. It passed really strongly. And but then I found this little quote: approval of the bond measure is not expected to raise property taxes. The county will pay for the bond through tax revenue already available in the annual budget, according to an order passed in August by the county court. Researching this, Cook County has 5 data centers. This is where Prineville is. So there's 5 major data centers there. So I'm presuming that either through some tax in lieu payment or some other payments, they have sufficient property tax revenue that they're paying this without requesting voters pay a penny of it. But what I'm discovering is that effectively there are 3 ways to get a courthouse in Oregon. Number one is you have to have a very large population. Courthouse costs don't scale with population. So the cost per person is much less. The ability to take it out of current tax revenue is much easier for the larger counties. So option number 2 is have some wind, solar, or data centers. And then number 3 is what happened in Klamath Falls. They had a massive earthquake in 1993, made their courthouse and their administrative building unusable. So they, in 1998, were able to build a courthouse. So what I'm looking at, we identified broader needs. So our county has $200 million in facilities needs that are unmet, and some of them, like the courthouse, are immediate needs. Some of them are things that can be stretched, like this building. Obviously, is not ideal, but it's going to cost us money to keep it running, but we can keep it running. But when you add all of that up, that is well in excess of any reasonable debt that we have. So what we need to start thinking about is, from a long-term planning point of view, from a generational equity point of view, we don't, we clearly don't solve the problem now or even in the next decade, but we should be setting up a plan by which property is acquired and long-term plans are made so that over a period of 30 to 50 years, the county can replace facilities that will need to be replaced over that time frame, and has actually thought it through and planned in a way that we unfortunately do not benefit from our predecessors having done. So I know this isn't really the time to discuss that, but I want to bring up the concept that number 1, courthouse, let's request more than the state is willing to give us. And then we will try to make the case for the fact that the legislature was wrong when they passed this, make that pitch. If more than 50% is not forthcoming from the legislature, I don't see a pathway for us to replace our courthouse. I just don't understand where we would get the $40+ million to do that. We don't have the money, and the voters are not at all. I mean, I would be almost embarrassed to ask the voters for that, but I have no expectation of us getting it. But number 2 is I want you all to be aware of the fact that we have at least $200 million in 2029 dollars of pent up demand for facilities, and we don't have a plan to really address that. Allison has been working with staff on identifying all of that, and so we're doing the things proactively now to address it. So don't yell at us. We need to think about ways of reasonably setting in motion a process by which these needs can be met before we have an earthquake that could really harm people in these buildings.
The city of Hood River is also looking at new facilities, right?
More or less, yes. It's kind of an interesting thing, the ability of a community to absorb the wants/needs of government is something that we as elected officials are responsible for. But Oregon, because of how we split things into all these different little warrens of each commission having responsibility for a tiny little part of its own, means that there's not nearly as much master planning of that stuff as there should be.
Yeah.
I believe that we, as the County Board of Commissioners, have the responsibility for helping the community discuss its broader needs and to wrap those needs in so that it's not reasonable to take on debt that's beyond the ability of our taxpayers to pay.